The Wes Penre Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The Second Level of Learning. http://wespenre.com. Part 4, The Fork in the Road, Humanity's Future. Humanity's Future, Paper Number 1. Life After the Nano Second, Part 1. The Dark Road Towards Extinction. By Wes Penre, Sunday, October 21, 2012. Revised, Saturday, December 15, 2012 at 11:10 a.m. http://wespenre.com. Part 2. 4.1. 0-point energy, or so-called negative energy. Many readers have probably heard the term zero-point energy, electrogravity, or negative energy sometime on their journey. If nowhere else, probably through Dr. Stephen Greer's work. I am not going to go into any esoteric teachings and hard-to-comprehend science about this here, but I need to touch this subject because it's very important, the more reasons to keep it simple. The first thing to understand is that when we talk about negative energy in these terms, we are not talking about electrically charged energy. This is something totally different. Normal energy, such as light, curves and bends outwards, in waves, into space. Negative energy, such as gravity or an atom's nucleus, pulls and cycles inwardly, so we call it negative as opposed to normal, positive energy, and again, it's not about electrical charge. Dr. Greer points out that zero-point energy is something star races use quite frequently, not only when they travel through microcosmos, but also when they communicate with each other over distances, as it seems. So, it's not the use of it that's wrong, it's how we use it. I will make the allegory with the balloon once more. These are not easy concepts to grasp, and I'm sure the majority of the readers have forgotten this principle by the time they read this. So, imagine you are blowing up a balloon. When it's full of air, take a black marker pen and make dots on the other end of the balloon, relatively close to each other. Then, with a couple of fingers, squeeze the balloon in the middle and watch the dots. The distance between them will now increase. What does this mean? Well, pretend that the balloon is the universe filled with energy, the air in the balloon, and when you squeeze it is when you borrow energy from the universe, i.e. for space travel or experiments with negative energy in general. The dots on the balloon signify time speeding up. So when you borrow or steal energy from one part of the universe, you are going to speed time up in another part. The consequences of this will be that if we now pertain this to another solar system, the Sun and the planets and everything else in that solar system will age much faster and speed towards its demise. To the authorities on our own planet, this may feel so abstract and far away that they don't care, but in fact, misuse or overuse of negative energy, electrogravity/zero-point energy, it's all the same thing, can also have catastrophic effects much closer to home. It may shorten the lifespan of our own Sun. Electrogravity isn't free. If we overuse or misuse it, it speeds the flow of time. A reckless overuse would shorten the Sun's lifespan considerably and therefore put our whole civilization in great danger. The use of negative energy needs to be globally monitored and regulated. According to Lobuono, aliens do this to avoid overuse, and if someone in their own society misuses it, they counterstream such energy into the offender's circuitry to deactivate it, if necessary. We must do the same thing, he says. The concern aliens have with us humans starting to use negative energy, and we already have, is that they know our mentality, and they don't like what they see. They can see how we are beginning to use this kind of energy in the weapon industry, and that is a no-no. Many star races are very aggressive at making sure that this doesn't happen and go out of their way to condemn use of negative energy for weapon purposes. Something they don't like the least is when immature races start messing with these kind of energies without taking any responsibility for it. In our case it's mainly done under alien supervision, the Syrians are the instigators, but the weapon industries are not only run by aliens, the majority of people who are working there, same with other workplaces and facilities, are of course human, who either agree with the policies of the industry they're working in, or simply don't care about the consequences of these policies and just see it as a job. This can show to be very dangerous thinking, because it could have severe consequences if more advanced aliens interfere. No one is going to intentionally destroy the whole human race because of this, but other actions will be taken, which will have the weapons backfire. Also, severe efforts may be made so that humankind will not put their foot out in interstellar space. We will end up living in a quarantine within a quarantine within a quarantine. Yes, that's how dangerous many star races think we are in present time. We have a lot to learn as a species, and it will not come easy. Ultimately, of course, any interference with building a weapon industry in the fashion they wish will of course trigger the Sirians, who consider themselves the owners of this planet. If so, these weapons using negative energy may be used against interfering, but well-intended star races, and we may have a new space war going. There is so much at stake. The problem is that aliens have looked at probable futures from a multidimensional viewpoint, and they can see a probable future, with some energy built towards it, where mankind destroys itself because of misuse of energy. Electrogravity is not a negative thing per se, no pun intended, because its use, when done moderately, can have lots of benefits. Although it speeds things up in the environment, it also slows down things in the immediate proximity to where it's used. E.g., it could be of great use in the medical field as it could freeze cancer, shorten the half-life of radioactive waste with a purpose to make them harmless, etc. The problem is that here on Earth, if something can be used for ill purposes, it's a guarantee it will. This is a very sad, but quite true. It doesn't mean it's not going to be used for more benevolent purposes as well, but the military will grab everything which can be used to build advanced weapons and aircraft to increase their negative power. Due to our arrogance, we are also facing an additional problem in all this, which is that because of our warlike behavior, advanced star races refuse to teach us the secrets of electrogravity. When we look at it, it looks like a one-way street. How much negative energy can we use without severely affecting the lifespan of our solar system, and not to affect other solar systems, light years, or even galaxies away, the way universal energy works? The truth is that we don't know, and the more star races teach us, the more we will absorb the knowledge and use it in the weapon industry. But don't the Sirians know the limits? Oh, sure they do, but do they really care? Does it bother them if the sun is dying due to the misuse? Do they have a bad conscience if star systems somewhere else suffer from what we and they are doing here and in other places? Well, we already are quite familiar with their mentality, so the answer is obvious. And unfortunately, humanity as a whole is not even aware of electrogravity, and while it is being more and more misused as time goes by, the rest of mankind is sitting in their couches with their legs on the table watching reality shows and football games, giving up their own energy in favor of the Sirians, who suck it up the more excited the person gets before the TV screen. Again, it's pretty sad. George Lobuono says. To humans, Tom Bearden's assertion that use of electrogravity speeds the flow of time seems like a one-way ride, as though when we use electrogravity we simply run the clock like a vector in that part of virtual space-time. However, hyperversals can converge multiple categories of gravitics in order to minimize the local running of the clock on quanta. This allows for finer, counterbalanced uses of gravitic technologies. Over billions of years' time such methods have been refined, allowing hyperversal technology to be multiply-horizoned, so to speak. As a result, it's safer, but like all gravitic technology, it deducts from the total duration of a universe cycle. Hyperversals go out of their way to demonstrate how precise their technology can actually be. I've experienced a variety of their subtle demonstrations of various microphenomena, commentary included, plus the ability of some hyperversals to hint at certain events before they happened. So, what this is indicating is that we, with the beginning of the new era, are hypothetically able to reach the stars at any time, and there are those willing to help us with the mechanics around it. There is, however, two huge barriers that we've put on ourselves, which prevents us from immediately taking advantage of this situation, and they are A. the Sirians' domination on the planet, B. we humans, who agree to be manipulated by this alien group. We humans are born here on Earth, and this is our planet, or ours together with those who once created us in the first place. And these ancient ones are the ones to decide when we can have the planet to ourselves, not the Syrians, or likewise, any other impostors and invaders. The ancient ones would set us free here the exact minute we shook off the parasites from our beings and our planet. However, and there always seems to be a however, those who are willing to give us technology once we can prove ourselves being peaceful and not a threat to the rest of the star races out there, are basically offering us energy that is free and doesn't destroy our planet, as long as we are not using it for building weapons in the so-called defense industry. So far, so good. Now, this technology, or most of it, already exists on this planet, thanks to a certain giant man, literally and figuratively, called Nikola Tesla. We all know the story how his inventions, which could bring us free energy, was hijacked by the PTB and used within the military-industrial complex, MIC, instead. But here is the crux. These concerned star beings say they want to teach us how to travel in space. What can they teach us? To use technology to go through stargates, black holes, and perhaps if they are really hostile, wormholes? Well, we don't need to know that, because we can nano-travel. So this makes us think, what are the intentions with these star beings who say they can help us reaching the stars? This help is supposedly coming from very advanced hyperversals, onto energetics, and they are saying that this is the way they travel through space. First of all, if they are onto energetics, they travel in their thoughts, think about a destination and you're there, and they don't use stargates. Now, those who still are occupying physical bodies do use stargates etc., but none of them, whether they are onto energetics or occupy bodies, can nano-travel, because they don't possess the divine fire, like we humans do. Exactly how this works in details I will explain in the beginning of the third level of learning. So are we facing a deception again here? I find it interesting, by the way, that Dr. Stephen Greer is calling his both main projects the Orion Project and the Sirius Project. Why those two stars? I have tried to find out the answer to that, but no one can, or is willing to, give me an explanation. At best, they call it coincidence. In these circles, there is no such thing. Those who understand what I'm getting at here may think Dr. Greer is deceived, and they may be right, but then again, he is receiving big funds from at least one Rockefeller. This has been pointed out to him over and over, but he claims there are good Rockefellers, too. Well, if so, I don't think that the main branch of the family would let them finance projects like those of Dr. Greer's without intervening, in case these same projects are as benevolent as Dr. Greer says. Anyhow, I would strongly suggest that the reader reads Lobuono's book, because it's a wealth of information in it, and it changes your way of thinking regarding aliens, no matter what way of thinking you had before. Very interesting. You see, it doesn't matter if the aliens Lobuono's been in contact with are pulling our legs, you still learn a lot from them. Now, I don't think they all do, and Lobuono is pretty smart, but in certain terms, there seem to be ETs mentioned in the book who are doing their best to lead us off track. Lobuono knows this and points it out, and he thinks he knows how they do it and why, but does he really? He nano-travels, albeit with help from technology, by using ends, but he doesn't seem to have any core knowledge of that his soul is made up by fragments of fires. If he doesn't have this knowledge, the aliens can easily manipulate him, and us. But is there a real threat? Are there star races out there who are actually going to destroy us if we don't change our ways? No, they aren't. Apparently, there are some, the same ones who want to present electrogravity, who suggest this is the case, but I have well-informed sources, not from this planet, who have explained the laws of the universe for me, and there is no star race out there who would destroy mankind or the living library again and get away with it. Not unless they have our agreement to destroy us. But the way things are now, there are higher orders of beings who would interfere before that would happen. It is true, however, that benevolent star beings in the past tried to present real solutions to the world governments, but were turned down. Instead, the governments decided to make treaties with star races who had the most destructive technology, or technology that could be used destructively. The benevolent beings who were here were the Pleiadians, according to themselves. When they realized that the governments of the world are not interested in solutions that can help the people and the planet, they decided to talk to the common people instead and chose a human vessel to do so. That vessel is Barbara Marciniak. So, let's become spectators for a while and not buy into all these fantastic offers that are presented to mankind at this time, Dr. Greer included. There is more to the picture than meets the eye. By the way, I read an old article by Richard Dolan, from 2001, shortly after Dr. Greer's Disclosure Project had aired. He, too, was quite suspicious at the whole friendly aliens agenda. Dolan had seen the same thing I had, namely that Greer and his team were laughing off the idea that there could be malevolent aliens around as well. The explanation they had for opposing this idea was that we are still breathing the air of planet Earth, meaning we are still here. If bad aliens were here, we would all be either invaded or dead. For coming from such an intelligent man, it's quite a stunning statement. How about if the aliens have been here all the time and never left? Could that be the reason for our present enslavement? Why doesn't Greer mention this as an option, or at least try to debunk it? Not credible for coming from such a brilliant man. His staff are parroting him whenever they get a chance and are either laughing at researchers like me, or get overly aggressive, like in my case. What is true, though, is that we are a threat to both ourselves and aliens out there by our misuse of energy, including negative energy. The effects negative energy has on our Sun and other solar systems out there has been scientifically proven. 4.2. Another, even more serious misuse of energy. One would think that the misuse of negative energy, and the potential acceleration of this misuse, is what bothers the many star races out there the most when comes to universal overall danger, but I am not so sure that is the case. I agree that this is a biggie, but there is another misuse that is also affecting everybody in the universe on an even more serious scale, and that is the misuse of female energy, the misuse of female fire. I have already earlier talked a lot about how women have been suppressed by males in power. I have talked about an ongoing war, up until this day, between the genders, something that has been going on as long as anyone can remember. It was a problem early on in the history of this universe. Women have something men don't have to the same extent, and that is the full extent of the fire. I know that there have been pieces missing in my information on this subject, and the reason is because I wanted to wait with explaining the rest until in this paper, because there were these other things the reader needed to know first. First, to review a little bit, this is a feminine universe, no doubt about it. And in this feminine universe, the real fire belongs to the female. The males just don't have it to the same degree, except on very rare occasions. There is a reason for this, which I will go into in a moment. The Syrians keep us captured here for several reasons, where the most important ones are 1. They need obedient super soldiers for their future space army in order to defeat the divine feminine. 2. They need more time to explore what it is that makes the females so different from these males in power. 3. They want the female fire so they can unlock the doors to the inner sanctuary of the goddess universe and become kings of the 100% universe. So they have kept us in a time loop for who knows how long in order to figure this out, thinking they have all the time in the world, for really, who could stop them? That's what they thought. It's different now, however, which I will talk more about soon. But now, when they understand that with some outside assistance, humankind is for the first time able to break the time loop and jump to the next layer of the grid, they need to be more aggressive. The alien/military abductions are increasing in numbers, and baby girls are bred outside of society and are never registered. These babies, especially when they have become a few years of age, are used by the Syrians to extract their fire. The same thing often happens when a human man and a human woman have sex and have not protected themselves first by putting intentions there what their orgasms are going to be used for. Non-physicals of the Syrians' alliance are either present during the sexual act and steal the fire from the female orgasmic explosion, or they can hover in the ether above Earth and see from above when women on Earth have orgasms, because they register like powerful fireworks shooting up through the atmosphere and eventually leave this 4% universe. Needless to say, this firework gets stolen. The energy/fire that the Syrian overlords are able to collect for themselves are then used to increase their own power. This whole process, if looked at from the viewpoint of other star races, is enormous misuse of sexual energy. Most star races know by now that humans are made special, with the women inhabiting the fire of the goddess herself to an extent that has never before happened in this universe, or even beyond, from what I understand. But why is this so serious when comes to other star races, who are not even involved in these evil deeds? Well, it's serious because these star races can't do much about it as long as we humans are in agreement with the Syrians. Whether it's wittingly or unwittingly is irrelevant. The Syrians are using the fire to boost their own power to conquer the universe, and many star races see this happen and feel quite powerless until we humans decide we've had enough. The observing star races could hypothetically go to war against the Syrians and challenge their power, and I have the feeling that one day they will join together in an effort to do so, but they still want to give humanity a last chance to wake up and repent. That could, more or less in an instant, reduce the Syrian power remarkably, and the rest of the star races could more easily win a gigantic war like that. The problem is, humans would be destroyed in a war like that. We wouldn't be able to withstand that kind of energy. This whole thing has gone too far. The Syrian warlords have gained a lot of strength and power since they took over this planet, this being their most important outpost at this point in time, because the females here are invaluable for them. To go to war against the Syrians now would certainly destroy both the living library and all human life on this planet, and the star races out there think both twice and 3 times before they'll do that. Besides, the beings of higher order are against it. This, too, is giving the star races hope. If these beings of higher order are telling them to hold back, it must mean there is still a chance that humankind will make it, at least that's what they may think. But I'm sure they won't wait forever.